Christmas is just around the corner once again, and as we turn our attention to what we're going to cook and eat on Christmas Day here in the UK, once you've had your turkey, your roast potatoes, and enough sprouts to make you fart to kingdom come, it's time to think about pudding, and we'd like to make a Christmas pudding here in the UK. This video is a collaboration with Bake Across Europe, and she set me a challenge to make an interesting Christmas pudding. And I could only think of one thing I could really do that would be on brand for me, and that's Heston Blumenthal's Hidden Orange Christmas Pudding. Back in 2010, the Hidden Orange Christmas Pudding was all the rage, and in fact it was really difficult to get hold of one. Headlines were full of the fact that you could have to go on eBay and pay hundreds of pounds to get one. They flew off the shelves. Somehow it's just one of those products that caught the public's imagination. An orange inside a Christmas pudding. When you say it like that, it's not that remarkable. I was lucky enough to get hold of one, and I can remember trying it, taking it around my parents' house, and they were all like, "Ooh, you've got a hidden orange Christmas pudding." I'm going to say right up front, I'm not the world's biggest fan of Christmas pudding, but I did like this one. It was much lighter than most Christmas puddings, which are a really heavy, dense affair. I have them once on Christmas Day, and then I'm done for the rest of the year. But this one was much lighter, closer to something like a bread pudding. What exactly fueled all this furore? The makers used the entire stock of Valencia cured oranges that takes 7 weeks to candy, and that meant that nowhere they couldn't buy them. There was a limited stock. Good old supply and demand issues. Heston has recently finished his relationship with Waitrose, making customised products for them, things that are very uniquely Heston, particularly around Easter and Christmas. Lots of specialised products with very deluxe packaging and specific illustrations, leaning on the trompe l'oeil aspect where one thing pretends to be something else visually. It's just indicative that at some point he had over 60 products at any one time on Waitrose's shelves. It was announced back in February that their 13-year relationship of creating products together had come to an end, and there's a hint that there may have been some animosity in the background behind this solution, but I don't know anything more than you do. Where did Heston get the idea from exactly? There's lots of pudding recipes out there in the universe. Traditionally, Christmas pudding was a plum pudding, so there's something in hidden fruit there, a little bit, I guess. The tradition there also exists of having a sixpence buried in the mixture, and whoever found it, as long as they didn't break a tooth, was considered to have luck that year. There's also a recipe that Heston talks about often, particularly in Historic Heston, his book, and that's Sussex Pond pudding, a pudding when cut open floods out a lemon-flavoured custard or sauce or something. And I think all these things were probably in his mind. The idea of getting an orange in your stocking at Christmas is a very deep tradition. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it is a thing, I promise you. It's also really traditional to have oranges, satsumas, tangerines, small little oranges around the house at Christmas over here. I would also say then he's combining his childhood memories, very key thing for Heston, with a surprise element, something else he loves, and just wrapping those things together into a really approachable whole. I've set myself a task to try and figure out how it was made. Now, no official recipe was ever published from Waitrose nor Heston. It was an industrial product after all, made in a factory, so they don't really have a customer-friendly recipe. I was able to dig out the recipe listing from somewhere, from the actual back of the box, that described the ingredients went into it. Of course, there are the usual sort of factory things in there, or your preservatives and what have you. But if I look very closely, I can get a hint at what they were aiming at and the sort of ingredients that are in there. There's nothing too crazy in there, to be honest. Then there were a couple of videos released at the time of people having a go themselves. But I thought, how am I going to make a Christmas pudding? I thought I have to return to the basics, to the doyenne, and I had to start with the Delia Smith recipe. This is a very old book and literally passed down in my family. It's as old as I am, and is Delia Smith's cookery course, all 3 parts, into one volume. And her Christmas pudding recipe, she's put, "This has proved to be one of the most popular recipes I've ever produced, and if you're making it for the first time, I hope you'll agree." If you don't know Delia Smith, an absolute legend of the TV cooking scene in the UK, and responsible for essentially teaching a generation how to cook. I keep this book around all the time because it's got one of everything in here. If I want to know how the basics happen, it's in here. If I want to get ideas, it's in here. So I started with her base Christmas pudding recipe, and then I've adapted it based on the other things I've found out, and of course the candied orange itself. Puddings usually take 6, 7, 8 hours to steam, so give yourself plenty of time. And generally speaking, after steaming, you wait about a month. So that's how I came up with it. Please go make sure you check out Kristen's recipes. Go over there and show her some love, and check out her recipe. Let us know in the comments if you've tried it and which one you preferred. Well, first of all, we're going to need to make the crystallized orange itself. So let's start with an orange. It's got a regular large orange there. Just going to poke it all over with a toothpick. Not paying too much attention, just working out some frustrations so that our sugar syrup can penetrate all over. So let's put that in the bowl with a great big helping of marmalade, just to help that orange flavour along. I would say that's about 200 grams of marmalade. And we're going to add a good blast of liquid glucose, about 10 grams. And that's going to give us the structure that we need. And then plenty of sugar. That's about 250 grams. And now I'm going to fill up that pan with water until we're covering the orange, and then put it on the hob. And that's now going to simmer away for about 20 to 30 minutes until really starting to soften, and that will be the centerpiece of our Christmas pudding. Get this bit right, the rest is easy. So if you've got another pudding recipe you prefer, you can go ahead with that one. As you can see, I've assembled all the ingredients here. There's quite a lot. Well, a lot of it is basic, with a few odds and ends you might need to go and get. So first let's start with all the dry ingredients. Breadcrumbs, suet, flour, now our spices, 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon mixed spice. I guess spice is sort of one of the key things of a Christmas pudding. You know, you want to smell those aromas, and those aromas, growing up where I did in England, they mean Christmas. Those heady, citrusy, sweet spices. Plenty of sugar. It's been around a long time, Christmas pudding. We really associate it with the Victorian era. And you can see how in the Victorian era, about 150 years ago, as I speak to you now, you can see how this would have been the most indulgent thing to put on the Christmas table. You've used all your sugar and all your flour and all your fats and all your fruits that you've bought from the trading, that have been imported from all over the world, and you're putting them into one dish to celebrate Christmas. You can see why it sticks as such an indulgent treat down the years. And to that, I'm going to add a couple of eggs. And some of our orange cider. I've added about 150 so far, 150 ml. Probably I'm going to keep that around because every bit of flour, every bit of sugar, fat is different, and might need a little to make it a little bit more moist. We're going to add about 4 tablespoons of Cointreau. Not too much in the way of nuts. Our citrus peel, a few cherries, plenty of these mixed fruits. And then the mixing. You've got to get it really thoroughly mixed. You want all those flavours to spread out. So every mouthful is packed with treats, whether it's dried fruit, nuts, boozy flavours. Quite a tough mix because it's such a stiff mixture. And those little granules, those suet pebbles you can see there, they're going to melt very slowly into the mixture and give it a wonderful richness that you can't get with other fats. Traditionally, everyone has a go at stirring the pudding some weeks before Christmas, known as Stir Up Sunday. If you want to know more about the history of Stir Up Sunday and making Christmas puddings in general, then please head on over to Bake Across Europe, link in the description. She's doing a wonderful piece on the history of Christmas puddings and the traditions surrounding them. But you want something that's going to very lazily fall off the spoon. So you can see the consistency, they're very heavy. Honestly, not terribly appetizing like this, but Again, those suet granules, they're going to melt away during the long steaming process. Nice, I'm happy about that. Let's take a look at our orange. It's absolutely inflated now. Pregnant, intoxicated, Marco Pierre White would say.
And to end up intoxicated on butter.
With deep sugary syrup. So I think I'm going to remove that. Pop that to one side. Just to cool off. Be really careful disposing of this water. It's obviously packed with sugar and can clog up your pipes. So our pudding mix is made, our orange is ready. Let's get it all on, ready to steam. I've got a 1 litre pudding basin here. I'm going to thoroughly grease the inside with butter, and that just helps it release from the sides of the pan. I'm going to put in, I don't know, a third of the mixture. Actually, I'm going to go a little more. Also, you want that orange to be completely encased. I'm giving it a really good press down and a good bash on the counter to just settle it, shake out the air pockets that are in there. I'm taking my sticky candied orange and I'm just going to bury it in there. Excellent. Obviously, you'll have to pick the size orange to match your pudding basin. Really, really jam it in there and work it in, because there's going to be loads of air in this very dense mixture. It's not a loose, sloppy pancake batter. It's a thick, heavy pudding batter. You see it's pressing down quite a bit as we squeeze out the air pockets. I think that is everything we are going to get out of it. So let's prepare it. That'll do nicely. I'm also going to make a great big pleat. So it has that fold halfway down. That's going to allow it room to expand as the steam does its level best to escape. Tied around with string. Just to try and trap all that steam in. With it prepared, now let's steam it. A super large pan here. I'm going to put a plate at the bottom. Pudding goes in. Plenty of hot water. Bring that to the boil. And now we're just going to let that steam away for about 7 hours. Yes, 7 hours. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, so I'll be seeing that at 8 PM tonight. You've got to keep going back to that, checking for the hot water, topping it up with hot water, just to keep that steam supply. Obviously it's going to lose water, it's going to evaporate away, so just keep topping it up. Pop back every hour or so, just top it up with water. But give yourself at least 7 hours there. See you then. Well, here we go. It's been a few weeks. I've got the same jumper, but a new haircut. But here we go. I haven't opened it yet. So let's hope the orange is perfectly inside. I hope it's still inside. I hope it hasn't run off. Let's find out. Oh, immediately the blast of citrus just came up. So let's see how we did. Whoa, and there she is. The hidden orange in there. Wow, that's great. That is great. That is exactly what I wanted. So we've got now our orange encased in our Christmas pudding. It's a little lighter than you might be expecting if you're used to Christmas pudding. Heston's Christmas pudding, when I had it, was lighter. It was lighter in flavour, lighter in texture. It wasn't quite as heavy, as dense, as rich as other Christmas puddings I've had in the past. And just looking at that slice there, get your peepers around that. See the cut through with all the fruit and the nuts. So, would I do anything differently next time? I would take that crystallisation of the orange much further, really candy it. I've seen other people give it a go in various videos. I probably lost my nerve slightly, and it just needs to be crystallised that little bit further. Some people have taken days to do it. I know in the factory it takes them 6 weeks to candy their whole oranges. So I wasn't really planning on devoting 6 weeks to it. I'm hoping the citrus of the orange makes it a little bit more refreshing. Let's find out. I am super pleased with that. As I've said before, I find Christmas pudding a bit heavy. The citrus lifts that along and makes that just refreshing, absolutely refreshing. And look, it's not a difficult recipe. That's the whole point of Christmas pudding. Anybody can give it a go. And I really recommend you do. The whole recipe is linked down below. And don't forget, you need to check out Bake Across Europe, also linked down below, where she's making a more traditional Christmas pudding. That was fantastic. I'm gonna have another go. Okay, that's the thing about Christmas pudding. Every mouthful is slightly different. It's a bit boozy, it's rich, it's fruity, it's nutty. And then we've got this lovely citrus flavour running through it. It just keeps everything light and happy. Love it. Very pleased. Well, that was fantastic. I do hope you give it a go. Let me know if you do. If you're looking for more dessert sort of things, well, there's Heston's lemon tart over there compared to Marco Pierre White's lemon tart, and down there you'll find another attempt of Heston with an orange, but this time meat fruit. Spoilers, it didn't quite go quite as well as this one. Merry Christmas.
So there you go. I hope you'll enjoy it. Merry Christmas.